I just wanted to hop on here and just sort of speak a little bit about the past few weeks in light of Kobe Bryant's death and the tragedy that it was with him and his daughter Gigi, as well as all the others that we've been praying for, that their families who died in that helicopter crash. And um, there's so many other tragedies that surround us that a lot of people don't know about, struggles that and battles that we face that nobody hears, that aren't on the news, that aren't on channels. But there's something about the tragedy of death that has a way of waking us up to life. And it's been really cool in the midst of the tragedy of Kobe Bryant to be able to leverage it in ministry, and especially being in sports ministry with FCA, be able to go and speak to a lot of teams about it. And a lot of where we kind of talked about was legacy, and just sort of what was Kobe's legacy. What is it that all these people are getting up on these podiums and talking about, what memories they share, who they say he was, and how they remember him. And I think it's a good question to ask ourselves, and it's a question I pose to a lot of the kids is, what's your legacy? Like, what do you want your legacy to be? I mean, whether it's 4 years in high school or college or, as a coach, it's like, what do you want, people to look back, your friends, your peers, your teammates, and say about you? And it's a real question. And it's just so cool to be able to see, them think about this and think about life and even the brevity of it, seeing one of the most elite athletes of all time and in incredible physical shape and still just as fragile as every one of us, and knowing that tomorrow isn't promised. And kind of in the midst of all of this, I was really praying for God to give me, just some scripture that would speak truth into this situation. And just to share it with you all, he led me to James chapter 4, verse 13 through 15. It says, "Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go into such and such town and spend a year there, trade and make a profit." He says, "For you do not know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? You are but a vapor that appears for a little while and then vanishes away. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we will live to do this or that." And I think that's an incredible heart to operate in this life that just seems to throw so many unexpected things at you. And, I heard once is that if you ever want to make God laugh, you can tell him your plans. And, it's like, for man's heart determines his plans, but the Lord determines his steps. And so often and so frequently, they are not straight. They're very up and down. They usually involve a lot of struggle, a lot of pain, in order to be able to reap the fruit of righteousness. And, so seldomly is something ever great without sacrifice. And to understand that if you ever want to leave a legacy, a lot of times it causes suffering and endures suffering. And whatever that legacy may be, even to love others can be painful. And, and we see that on the cross with Jesus Christ and the legacy that he left for us all, that we have the freedom to walk into. But it was really cool to be able to talk to these kids about legacy. And it was really interesting what they said is, I had a chance to speak to probably 6 or 7 basketball teams as well as a couple baseball teams. And not one of them said, I want to be remembered for my 3-point percentage or my ball handling skills or even our team's state championship, which is what's going on this week in Birmingham for all the Alabama basketball teams. But they all said that I want to be remembered as kind. I want to be remembered as a good teammate, as a hard worker. I want to be remembered as a good friend. And it was so cool to listen to these kids just, share their heart and think about what it is that they really want to be remembered for, and to be able to help them realize that, while this sport is, incredible and to be great is an incredible goal, but to not miss the bigger picture, that there's a lot bigger game of life that, deep down we really know that it's significant. and we all know what it really takes to be great. And so often we sacrifice that greatness to satisfy ourselves, to seek after our goals and our aspirations, our temporary pleasures, when we know that there's something greater and there's something better out there, which is to live for others. It was really cool to see a few interviews of Kobe Bryant, to see the transition from the Mamba, such a killer on the court, to a loving father, a husband, a coach, and just the way that he transformed into somebody that, he himself said that was very inwardly focused, just so concerned about becoming the greatest basketball player ever that he really had no regard for anyone else. That he was, he said there's, like as Shaq said, with some profanities, there's no I in team, but Kobe said there is a me. And it's just this attitude of, self-focus to growth that he showed to begin to be outwardly focused. And was he perfect? By no means, but who is? And to see that he made that transition, and to know that, even the fact that he was flying on that helicopter from church, to know that, he had began to see that this life is but a vapor, and it appears for a little while and vanishes away. And that all the goals of becoming the greatest player ever is nothing if you have no one to share it with. And to realize those relationships that we have in our lives are more important than any goals or dreams or aspirations that we could ever have to achieve. And just to realize that there's something to be said about just contentment where you are, and trust in the Lord, and where he guides you, and not being concerned about where he takes you, just to know that he's there. And that's the gift that Christ gave to us on the cross, was to allow God's presence to come back into our lives. And it's something that we have to choose to receive. But it's a legacy that we can create, and a legacy worth leaving. And, kind of thinking about legacy, asking all of them what their legacy was, I had to ask myself as well. And, the word that came to mind for me was I hope my legacy is change. I hope that whether our relationship lasts for a 10-minute talk that I gave during in a locker room, or, 10 years, that we're different after we've met, and that some way God used me to shine his light in your heart, and to, change your day, to change your life, to change perspective, to just be a little bit of God here on this little blue marble while I have the chance to be. And I just thankful for, the sacrifice he made for me, and the love he showed me, and to be able to share that with others. And it's just so cool. We know these young kids, and we always, cast them off as a bunch of TikTok and, Snapchat knuckleheads. And it's like, they get it. I mean, they know what's important. They might not always make it important, but they know. And, I trust God's going to work in their heart. And I'm just honored to be able to be a part of that process. And I think the future is bright, and God is light. And I just pray he shines upon each one of you today. I just pray all this in his name. Amen.